What feeling? Married 12 years, 2 kids, daughter 11, son 7. Married early at 18. Both of us busted our back to make it through college, she as a nurse and I as a teacher. And then busted our back to make it as professionals and parents, but never worked on each other or our marriage. She started bringing it up 2 years ago that she wasn't happy and I didn't understand. I thought we had made it, we were successful, have a nice house, beautiful kids, and pay the bills. She never made an effort emotionally, so I thought everything was fine. Turns out she was just closed off. She was acting ill on December 2nd and I asked her if she didn't love me and she said no and that she wanted a divorce. I became defensive again, said we had no reason to be unhappy and all she could say was that I never help out and that this wasn't a partnership. Naturally, I told her I didn't understand, but I wanted to remain married and I'd make whatever changes she wanted me to. The next morning and next day I did all the wrong things, pursued her, texted her 2 or 3 times, quoted songs, told her we could do, she could have whatever she had been asking for. But I also started reading some things, mostly Googled how to win your wife back and some other stuff, and began to get a grasp for where I failed her emotionally in the marriage and began to own my role and take responsibility for my part. Over the next few days, I communicated that I was beginning to understand where she was coming from, empathized with her feelings, and tried to do some 180s and show that I was willing to change. A week went by and she told me that she could tell I was trying but didn't know if she could come back from where she was and felt like she needed to talk to an attorney and that maybe some space would be what we needed. She talked to a lawyer but didn't file papers and we agreed on some space after somewhat of an argument. I told her that if she wanted space that she should leave. After all, I wanted us to be a family and the kids wanted us to be a family. It wasn't fair for me to be the one to leave. She replied that she was not leaving her kids. I shared the same sentiment and told her that if I backed off that the kids would go with me part of the time, and she agreed to that. We talked to the kids and she told them she was unhappy and that we needed some space to figure things out. That night I left and she agreed for the kids to go with me. I've been out of the house for a week. She's initiated a lot of contact with me as far as the kids were concerned and family functions. I'm trying to do the basics, get a life, which is impossible, 180s, which help a lot because I finally understood they were for me, and I'm trying to detach. I've come up with a million things to say and just shut my mouth. She's got a crush on another guy whether she wants to admit it or not. I snooped her phone a few nights and found where she had been flirting some guy up, but it didn't look like he was real interested and never saw any indication where it had gotten serious yet. I'm only giving her this space on the premise that we can still reconcile and that it may help. I am worried that she may be in fantasy land and just think she can move me out and keep everything the same. If it heads for divorce, I'm prepared to ask for joint legal and physical custody and ask that I be the primary physical custodian based on my work hours and the fact that I teach in the same system as our children attend. She works 4 to 5, 10-hour shifts a week, an hour away, and is not home to see the children before they go to bed 4 to 5 nights a week. She makes slightly more than I do, so that eliminates alimony. I've paid the last $20,000 worth of house bills and have always provided the health insurance so she could ride around in a new car. She will try and claim that she was the primary caretaker, but that has always been our grandparents. Free child care. We were married so young and so long there is very little distinction between my family and her family, and as it stands now both sides are pleading for her to be reasonable and to give this marriage one last strong chance. But she's not talking to anyone about it. Like I said, I snooped her phone, didn't confide in anybody, and no deleted messages except the new guys were always deleted the next day. Right now, I'm hoping for a slowdown and a turnaround in our marriage, but I'm also preparing for the worst. Talked to a lawyer and they said if she had not served me papers there was nothing to be done unless I wanted to draw some up. We talked hypothetically about the alimony, child support, custody issue. Pretty much I'm screwed with custody because it's an even tie considering most things, and even though they say they don't make preferences, the mother gets the nod when an adolescent female child is involved. Should be no alimony, and if I were to get primary physical custody, she would actually have to pay me child support. But the lawyer said based on the way women have men by the nuts in marriage and divorce that I could ask for that kind of custody but not count on it even if it's a no-fault divorce and she is the one who initiates it. I texted the other tin can and explained that I knew she was emotionally attached to him and that I was trying to make things work between my wife and I, not to threaten or anything because I figured it would be forwarded straight to her. I figured if he wasn't interested before he may get distant, or hell it might backfire. He sent me this long message back about appreciating the concern, but I had the wrong idea about he and my wife. Worked together a long time ago, blah blah, confided in each other about personal stuff. Wasn't intimate, wasn't ever going to be, and that he wasn't my problem, and from talking to my wife that he was sure that there wasn't another man. But like I said, I'm a school teacher, I get lied to all the time. There needs to be a walk-away wife PSA on TV or something. It's the same story of men failing their women in the same areas without knowing it or under the guise of being providers. Sucks that moving out was a bad idea. I felt like that was my last good chance at proving I could give her something she asked for and not be selfish. She has opened up some, actually wrote me a letter saying that she was sorting through her emotion. Could tell I was trying, but didn't want to go back to where we were. Classic walk-away wife verbiage, and I understand where she's coming from. She said she reconciled some of the small things, but the big walls around her heart were still there, and it would take time, counseling, and prayer, and that she couldn't make any promises. Said she had our and our children's interest in her heart and genuinely wanted all of us to be happy. I feel like her communicating that was a step forward, and if I run back in the house, it may ruin my last chance if there is one. Or the other more likely possibility is that she is trying me like a fool and is going to see how long she can treat me like a little bee and test drive the whole lot behind my back while I do all the bending over, sacrificing, and changing. This started December 2nd, tried to remain in the house and make changes, give space. Didn't have the self-control needed to do that despite my best efforts. Moved out on January 5th, I believe, to give her some space, and as of today she left me the letter on the 11th and called to speak with me just to talk last night on the 14th. We both have separate counseling sessions tomorrow. My session is after hers. I'm going to lay down my plan for returning home this weekend and read the therapist's reaction. I figure we're both going anyway, what's another day, and the therapist is bad about sharing each other's feelings between sessions. I'm going back home this weekend and explaining what I feel and believe about our marriage, how I'm prepared to work to move forward, and if she's not sure, she's welcome to stay home also and figure it out, or if she needs space, she can go find it. Both of our families refuse to believe that another man could be the issue because she's not that kind of person, but in reality, anybody could be that kind of person. I have a name and cell phone number for the OM sucks. I pay most of the bills except the cell phone. I wonder, is there any way I can get my hands on TXT message transcripts without her knowing? About my best bet for exposing an emotional affair. I know where she keeps her work calendar schedule. I'm going to write those days down for the next week or two and see if she claims work on a day she doesn't have listed in her planner. A VAR isn't a problem getting one today. I've found a few GPS trackers, but all require a yearly contract, which isn't bad, and the battery life is terrible. I found some that plug into the car's computer and don't need a battery, but that is what dealerships use to pull codes and diagnostics. Hate for her to run by the Honda place one day and the mechanic hand it to her. I'd like to find a passive tracker, but striking out on those as well. I won't deny that I am in denial. I'm experiencing the roller coaster of emotions. I constantly question myself, do I have the proof to support this, not to her but to me? And the sad answer I've got to accept is yes. 1 minute is maybe it's just emotional and it will fade, and the next moment I understand she is actually pursuing this more so than he is. I'm on the way to the counselor only because it was already set up and I could stand to gain some insight from him. Leaving there and going home. Sleeping on the couch so I can snoop her car when she is asleep. Going to work on getting the code for the phone and tackle that tomorrow. I'm not going to speak to her period except to briefly answer a simple question until this weekend. Moved back home, kids are excited, she seems hurt, said that I'm forcing the happy mask back on her. And that little bit of weight that was lifted and healing that had started was all undone. Haven't confronted her about the affair, not enough proof. Did snoop through the car and medicine cabinet and found prescription for meds. Texted her when she got off work. Told her I needed our Verizon username and password. To that she said, why? I said I need to see out of the 360 text messages you sent in the last 10 days how many went to X. You wouldn't believe how fast the phone rang after that one. She finally admitted to the emotional affair, said there was some flirting but that was it. Said she needed some kind of validation and that we could look at the text transaction together. I then asked if she would have a problem with me reading the messages. She said she wouldn't, but she deleted them. I then said that's not a problem, we could pull them up off her iTunes account. Boy, did the tune change then. I don't actually know if you could do that, but she believed it enough to come off of some of the nastier details that crossed the line from flirting, but assured me that it was 100% emotional and that she really hadn't seen him in 3 years. Told me that she would cut it off immediately. I told her it wasn't my intention to control her or tell her who she could and couldn't talk to, but that I was hurt by what was said and I didn't think it was acceptable. I never gave an ultimatum, him or me. I just wanted her to know I knew she was hiding something. She offered to terminating the communication without me having to drop an ultimatum. Basically, she owned up to it and said that it would stop in the same breath. I felt like it was genuine, but I'm also leery of the fact that she may have just told me what she thought I would accept and may go deeper underground. I figured I had to act now to stop it from gaining further momentum. Because of the distance, I knew a physical relationship would be hard but not impossible. But given all the evidence I had, texts I read between them without them knowing, I really thought that it hadn't gotten physical yet. One of the last ones was a flirt that said I haven't had slept together since such and such date, and I'm frustrated, and the date she used was in reference to the last time we had sex. Still going to snoop it like it's still going on and see what I dig up. I didn't have to come off the fact that I got all the info off her phone. I guess she was stunned enough not to question how I got it. Told her I talked to him, which wasn't a lie, and that I gained an understanding to the true nature of their relationship. Less than a week ago I was really trying to prove to myself that absolutely nothing was going on because I was in denial. Without some of the advice and personal experiences here, I don't know how long it would have taken me to make that leap in believing she was involved with someone else. I really wrestled with the fact that I was trying to reason away a Pia, but I really think that going over everything I know and have been told by both sides that it wasn't there yet. Plan on exposing today. I've told half of our family my suspicions, I just have to confirm it with them. The other half, her mother, sister, best friend, I plan on asking them exactly how many messages they received from my wife since the 7th. Counting on the fact that they want an explanation, I'll explain that I found out she was talking to another man, confronted her about it, and she admitted it. Tell them she sent a high volume of TXT messages and said that most of them were to them, and that if they could look and tell me how many messages they received, then I could know how much she was talking to the OM. Continuing from where the story left off, after exposing the situation to her family and confirming my suspicion, I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. The confrontation was inevitable. It happened on a cold, rainy evening, the kind that seems to echo your emotions. She walked in, tired from work, her eyes showing traces of a day spent in emotional turmoil. I was sitting in the living room, the kids were at my parents' house. I had planned it that way, they didn't need to witness this. When she saw me, her expression changed from weary to defensive. I didn't waste time. I told her everything I knew, everything I had discovered. The room was filled with a heavy silence after I finished. She didn't deny it. Instead, she broke down, admitting to the emotional affair, to her feelings of being trapped in our marriage, feelings she had harbored for years but never expressed. The conversation was long and painful, filled with tears and confessions. In that moment, I realized our marriage had been over long before this confession. We were just two people, living under the same roof, playing roles we thought we were supposed to. The love, the connection, had faded into a routine of complacency and unspoken resentments. The decision to divorce was mutual but not easy. We agreed to do what was best for our kids. I insisted she move out, arguing that my job allowed me more time with the children. She didn't fight it, perhaps she too realized it was for the best. The next few weeks were a blur of legalities and adjustments. The kids took it hard, but kids are resilient. They adapted to the new normal, splitting time between two homes. I became more involved in their lives than ever before. As for her, I heard she moved into a small apartment, still working her long shifts. We kept communication strictly about the kids. I heard through the grapevine that her affair never turned into anything serious. My comment, "You got to keep her away, or else she will ruin you." Story 2. The Foul. My situation seems odd, but I will try to recap it without being too lengthy. So, I was married for 5 years. We were very much in love, very happy, everything seemed perfect. We had 2 girls quickly and found ourselves with 2 kids under 2. We were thrust into being mom and dad, both working full-time, and lost our connection of husband-wife. Our marriage was becoming very weak. Then we decided to take a better job that moved us across the country. My wife was all for it at first, but she quickly experienced ups and downs with it and ultimately hated our situation. I will admit my faults. I did not listen to her and showed no interest in moving back as she wanted. I loved the job. We grew distant from each other over the first year being there. I in effect left her in a very vulnerable, lonely, desperate state. During this time, she began secretly talking with one of my co-workers and someone who was a friend and neighbor. He took advantage of her need for conversation and attention. Looking back, I saw all the clues but never realized or considered she was having an affair with him. After my wife and the lover talked, all day every day, for about 3 months it turned physical. She engaged in a physical affair with him for maybe 3 months. During this time our relationship obviously was horrible. She made the decision to take the kids and move back home with her parents, leaving me stuck there for several months. I knew nothing of the affair. I went to counseling, worked with her, found a new job close to her, and moved back. For the next 6 months we were off and on with our relationship. I believe she only tried reconnecting with me at this point because her affair was impossible to continue, and as she later claimed, he quit talking to her. How my situation is different. After those 6 months she filed for divorce. 2 months after the divorce she came forward, crying, and revealed it to me. My life feels worthless now. I never even wanted the divorce, and I still love her, yet hate myself for loving her and wanting her back. She claims the affair is over. She says that since she moved back, he quit contacting her and they only recently spoke to each other via text messages. I know she was texting him prior to her telling me about the affair. She let me read the texts. It was her informing him that she was exposing the affair. What should I do? I feel like the door was opened for me to walk away and I was shoved through it. How can I believe the affair is over? What are my steps and options? Right now, we aren't talking, but it has only been 4 days since she told me. She seems very angry at me and unwilling to talk. Please help. And to clarify, we are already divorced now. Have been for 2 months. I moved and took a new job, so we are both separated from the lover. After she told me of the affair, I asked her to inform the lover's wife of the affair, and she did. Other than that, I don't think anyone else knows. I think she told her parents, but obviously she didn't tell them the whole truth because she also seems angry with me. I am afraid that if I expose the affair to that extent, she will run farther away from me. I just sent an email to his boss at work. His wife already knows. I have no other contact information for his family. So now I need to inform my ex-wife's family. I know they will not be receptive of my letter. To them their daughter walks on water and I think she has lied to them. They most likely will believe her over me. Well, I am at a loss. I can't even find her or other people on Facebook. The lover has no Facebook. I watched as my ex-wife sent his wife a message on Facebook. I also saw her response that she was already aware of the affair. Since then, she deleted or blocked her Facebook account. My ex-mother-in-law called me and let me have it for a good 15 minutes. She basically said they knew of the affair and didn't care because I was past to them. She tried saying she knew of terrible things I did that basically excused the affair. I asked for the examples and she could not provide them. She then calmed down and agreed that we need to meet with a counselor at least to get a relationship good enough to care for our young girls. I am still searching and finding nothing. I have called old friends and coworkers asking them. They also report not having her phone number and that she disappeared from FB. I know, because of our jobs, the lover always had his family's information redirected as many of us did for protection. But during my conversation with one friend and ex-coworker, he informed me that the lover got a woman pregnant that he was having an affair with. Nice to know. I have moved on to contacting others that I can for the time being. While the power of exposure, I put together a snoop team from my old job and got some contact info. Also discovered someone else who I thought was a friend knew of the affair. Lied to me when I called him. Then told the lover I was contacting people about it. I even talked with one of this guy's other affair partners. Yes, he had multiple affairs going on. She is very dumb, but told me all kinds of stuff about how this went on with my wife a long time ago. How my wife actually was more of the physical initiator than him. She even has screenshots of their texts together. Wow. She told me about how he has been complaining to her about my letter to his employer and about his wife being informed. I also exposed for a short period of time right on my FB page. WS and her family got extremely mad. Still waiting for the resounding effects from the letter I sent her pastor, which is the same guy who saw over our marriage. I'm on a roll now and I may as well not stop. WS refuses to let me see our girls now. I know this will be temporary, but it's hard. I can always file for custodial interference if it continues. Wish I could have our divorce papers redone to say at fault. I feel like all hope of us working this out together is gone. I have zero trust in her and I don't think she would ever bring herself down to meeting my trust requirements. I have lost nothing but a cheating, loveless, abusive wife. I forgot to add that once I exposed on FB she changed her phone number. Not sure if it is a good or bad sign, but she gave me the number. I figure it's her attempt to keep him from contacting her, or it's to keep people from contacting her after seeing the post. Once again, I feel pretty confident in the exposure I was able to do. Quit jumping all over me like I'm some idiot. Do you know what redacted means? I came here for help, not criticism. We were police officers and lived and worked by Phoenix. We are very good at making sure our information is not accessible even in public records. I lived there for only 2 years, and during that time 2 officers were shot in their driveway because of their inability to keep themselves secret, and they were targeted. Either way, my exposure worked well. And yes, she seems to be working through the process you described. The last 2 days we talked a lot. I just got his books in the mail. So, I was finally able to talk with the lover's spouse. She was helpful, but at the same time really had no desire to talk to me much. Said they were trying to move on and such, and she was aware of everything and more than I knew. She now has all the current and past phone records and shared some revealing info. She holds no desire to attack this affair like this site suggests. She seemed to just completely believe her husband and was more interested in pointing out that my wife wanted him more and he had nothing to do with her. I even showed her my WS texts from last week where she tried again pursuing him and asking if he was divorced yet. The lover told her that he was getting divorced. This still did not sway her belief in her husband. Oh well, she wants no more contact from me but agreed to inform me if she saw my WS number on their phone records again. She then told me about every time in the past month my WS tried contacting him, even this past Friday. So, with the new info at hand, I confronted her. She admitted it all. I think it may have set in that she is busted, and any time she tried contacting him I will know about it. The lover and his wife are also changing numbers to protect themselves. So now my WS seems to truly understand it's done and she's at the end. What should I expect from here on? Again, we are not married. We live 2 hours right now. She will not speak to me. I'm expecting her to withhold my time with the kids again as a way to punish me. I don't see her giving me even a chance within the next month to meet any of her emotional needs. But I feel like in a few months' time or so, with no contact from me, she will be reaching out again needing me. But during that time, she may also pick up more guys. How do you go about meeting someone's needs when they resist it? I also felt the same way about our divorce. 2 wrongs don't make anything right. No one reached out to her during my exposure. People gossiped, which greatly got to her, but no one said anything supportive to her face. Her family supported the affair and they believe a lot of her lies. Her dad is non-existing, workaholic, and rarely says 2 words. Her mother is the iron fist of the family and believes her children walk on water. The last time she called and yelled at me, she told me she didn't care what her daughter did, she would support her cause. She's her daughter, hours apart, both work full-time and juggle our kids. I realize a lot of this material is not going to apply or work for us given our situation. Right now, I am at a low I have never felt. I have a counseling session tomorrow. I hope this lady is ready for what's on my plate. For those who have followed, I will give an update. Maybe you can offer good advice. This past week, after I finally was able to contact the lover's spouse, this turned for the better. I had confronted my ex-wife that I knew she was still making attempts to talk with him and planted enough information to make her realize any attempt she makes will be made known to me by the lover's wife. From there, I had been gifted a bad experience that presented me the opportunity to make new love deposits and show her that I was a good option. One of our kids had a surgery that turned bad last weekend. I took 4 days off work and made several 3-hour trips to be with them in the hospital. So, I followed plan and showered her with support and met a lot of her needs. But she was still resisting a lot of things that bothered me. She had no desire to earn my trust. She said once we were friends again, I could see her phone, email, FB, everything. Then a few days later told me we were friends but refused to hand over her phone. She kept saying things that made me think she was looking to buy herself time. A clue she is still doing things with other men and trying to juggle us. So, I snuck in a look at her phone. Nothing horrible, but I saw conversations with other guys about going out and partying. So last night I confronted her in a nice way and made it seem that whatever she told me I would be fine with. She confessed to sleeping around with other guys after our divorce. It still hurt me a lot. I went in another room and cried. She came in and started yelling at me, stating excuses that it shouldn't bother me because we were divorced and it was none of my business anyway. I cried more and tried to leave. She fought me so hard on leaving, stood in the door crying and begging me to stay to talk. After a while she let me go, but I saw that her ego stepped in and she was now mad at me. After I left, I tried coming back. I thought I made a mistake and should have talked with her. But at this point her ego and anger would not allow me back. So now we are not talking. Is plan B an option for my situation? Because right now she will not speak to me. I'm expecting her to withhold my time with the kids again as a way to punish me. I don't see her giving me even a chance within the next month to meet any of her emotional needs. But I feel like in a few months' time or so, with no contact from me, she will be reaching out again needing me. But during that time, she may also pick up more guys. How do you go about meeting someone's needs when they resist it? I also felt the same way about our divorce. 2 wrongs don't make anything right. No one reached out to her during my exposure. People gossip, which greatly got to her, but no one said anything supportive to her face. Her family supported the affair and they believe a lot of her lies. Her dad is non-existing, workaholic, and rarely says 2 words. Her mother is the iron fist of the family and believes her children walk on water. The last time she called and yelled at me, she told me she didn't care what her daughter did, she would support her cause. She's her daughter. Today I saw a counselor. I went with expectations that she would not have the proper tools or experience to deal with my situation. I was right, but she is very experienced and can help me heal and become better just for myself and my kids regardless of my relationship status. It was great to just unload to someone. I have seen medication work well and fail horribly. I'd rather take this approach and heal by building new habits and a better life. Something I won't have to quit one day like medication. The counseling was free through my work. I don't have to return. This is the hardest thing I have ever done, and I realized that as I made mistakes during my start of the first plan and when she revealed her physical activities with other men after our divorce, it was literally starting all over again. I wish she would have just told me everything at once. I realized that in plan I need to forget about trying to find out what she has done and just focus on being her best option. I don't know. It's been hard, yes. I at first did not eat for a few days or sleep. I eat now, but I still don't have appetite like I used to. Sleep is still very slim. From this and my work schedule, I can go out with friends, but they enjoy bars and drinking. I don't really feel up to that, but maybe I should go. My comment: both of you just need to let it go.